AI has become more prevalent, more like the big thing. The first paper was used by Microsoft, Salesforce. One of them was trying to treat the sequence of amino acids in proteins.
每课灵魂都很有趣，每一种职业都很出彩。这里是纽约花筒，今天我们请到的是 Bryan。
Hi, I'm Bryan. I'm the co-founder and CTO at you.com. Before this, I was a research scientist in AI, working on neural networks, large language models, and amongst other things at Salesforce. I've been in the Bay Area about 14 years now.
So what you're working on doesn't necessarily go into a particular function or what's important to make eventually the company's product.
The real answer is that it can vary. For me, my projects were related in the sense that Salesforce customers use language to talk about the deals they're making, but it was not ever explicitly important for that to make it into production or make it into a product.
So mostly this is a non-profit department, or is it what has the angle that with enough R&D that you put in there, it's supposed to come to something that would drive a return?
Yeah, I think so at least at Salesforce, Google, Meta, a lot of these big industry labs, there's this sense that AI has become more prevalent and more like the big thing for a lot of these companies to work on as products. But at least back when I was doing research at Salesforce, it was considered a really long-term investment. And you're placing bets you hope could potentially work one day.
The things that you guys work on will be published and available to the public.
Yeah, most of the time.
In that case, anything that, let's say, Salesforce research department has produced and other company could just use them.
To some extent, at least they have some of the knowledge there. We would publish papers describing the details of how to train a large language model, for example, and how we did it. To some extent, there's still limitations for other people. Even if they have the ideas, they might not have the budget, they might not have access to the kind of compute or the amount of compute that they would need to actually run those experiments for some of the really, really large language models that we have today. You could kind of know everything about how to do it, but it would actually be quite hard to do it because you wouldn't have the resources.
For sure. It's like the company is spending the money not for them to have an asset of their own, but it's like the asset for everybody then.
Yeah, to some extent, yeah, at least that knowledge. And I think there's a sense that, well, if they do that and then other companies are doing that, it's kind of contributing to progress much more quickly. So then at the end of the day, they're all contributing to this combined pool of knowledge. If it works, they all get to benefit from it as well. So we see the explosion of AI now, and to some extent that's because so many people invested in it.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, that's very different from most of the jobs that I have interviewed with the purpose of generating revenues usually. Okay, so to transform a research into actual product, that's what's in between. Just need an engineer and they can do that, or still have to have more research?
It's back when I was in research, it was actually pretty hard. There wasn't a really established process, and they were often passion projects because everybody kind of has their direction. In the normal engineering organization, everybody's working on the thing they're supposed to be working on for revenue, for the product. And then if something comes along that's this research idea, like the organizations often weren't built to take those ideas and then change very quickly based on those ideas. So it was often maybe a few engineers that would do things out of passion projects, maybe take 10, 20% of their time, maybe their weekends, whatever it was, and say, I really want to try this new research idea in production. And so they'd have to do their normal work and then also try this other stuff out. That has changed as AI has become more and more important for these companies. So now I think the process of research to engineering is much more tightly coupled. But at least back when I was at Salesforce, we talked a lot as a team, especially when I was one of the leads, about how to actually get our research into production. It was a difficult process.
And then, so did any of the paper that you worked on end up being used by Salesforce in their actual product?
Yeah, so not right away. The first paper was used, I know, by Microsoft, Salesforce, amongst many others, because we open sourced the code, we open sourced the model. So a lot of people actually used it. The second paper wasn't used directly. It prepared a lot of the infrastructure that people were thinking about. if we're going to be making big models, if we're going to be making unified systems, what do we need to be doing now in order to prepare for that? Then many of the other papers fluctuated. So one of them was applying natural language models to proteins and trying to treat the sequence of amino acids in proteins as letters or words, and then trying to predict the next amino acid. And if you can do that, you can start writing totally new proteins. So it's kind of like language modeling, which was my normal specialty.
初中的时候，我妈就带我去蹦迪，我喝的第一个 shot 也是和妈妈一起喝的。同居这样的话能省房租，省房租。
Nice.
每次聊天的结束语都是祝你快乐。